neighborhood with a tailgate-ready Big Bow Box. It's bow time.
We're outside of Bridgeport Stadium. JMU wins its home opener 13-6 over Gardner Webb. I'm Tommy Gerganis, joined by me sports editors of The Breeze, Hayden Hunley and Preston Comer. So to start things off, JMU, 0 points in the first half. What were you seeing from the offense? What were the issues? Let's start off with Hayden.
I think the whole thing that I was seeing wasn't seeing very much. Not much going on besides some quick bursts in the running game from George Pettaway and not from Ayo Addai. Ayo Addai was the leading running back in the last game, starter at the beginning of this one, exited the first quarter with an injury, and before that he had negative yards off of 4 carries, I believe. George just kind of cemented himself as the starting running back on offense. But as far as the passing game, a whole lot of nothing.
Yeah, no, I mean, whole lot of nothing as far as the passing game goes, even though Alonzo got off to a quicker start than he did last week. The running game looked good. George looked great, and Tyler looked great. They really stepped in for when Ayo didn't produce and ended up going out hurt. But yeah, like Hayden said, there wasn't much to see on offense in that first half.
Yeah, well, and talk about some of those second half adjustments that were made. I'll start off with Preston.
Yeah, I mean, they just continued to feed the hot hand. They had one drive where they gave Purdy, I think, 3 or 4 carries in a row. He had 20-something yards rushing that drive, and he ended up capitalizing with a touchdown. Alonzo definitely composed himself a bit more. They had a couple completions still. You know, they weren't able to get anything on the board from passing. But yeah, no, they just kept doing what they did in the first half and were able to get a couple more completions.
Ironically, like their best drive of the day, really their only good drive of the day, they ran the ball on every play but one, which was an incomplete pass to the corner of the end zone to Breon Penny. So it was their only touchdown drive of the day was all runs besides a quick shovel pass to Cam Ross and an incomplete pass to Breon Penny in the corner. And I think that, offensive coordinator Dean Kennedy is in the facility right now scheming up some plays, working right above us, and I'm sure he's thinking about maybe he has to adjust from, hey, maybe we can't be a heavy passing attack, and maybe we can't just air it out like we did against Charlotte last week, and that they need to just sort of embrace the fact that they may be a running team. Even with Ayo Addai out, there is some depth there in that running back room. But as far as Alonzo Barnett and his progression, there was a lot of frustration I saw out of him today. A lot of frustration. He's still a young quarterback. He's still working on his things, but specifically, there was a drive when they were driving in the red zone on a third down. They had a bootleg. They had a wide open Josh Pfeiffer for a check down who could have got a first down, and he missed him. And I knew he saw that he missed him because as soon as he threw an incomplete pass, he looked at the sideline and started, tapping his chest saying, that's on me, that's on me. So a lot to improve on for Alonzo. I think the Dukes should just be lucky that they got away from this game with a win.
Yeah, switching sides of the ball, what did you see from the defense? Obviously, Gardner Webb only coming out with 6 points.
Yeah, I mean, the first half was very similar to last week. There were definitely struggles tackling in the second level, or really tackling from the whole front 7. They were lucky that they only gave up 3 points in that first half because the tackling on run defense was not there. They made adjustments just like last week, and I mean this secondary is the best position group on this team. Those 2 interceptions really helped the defense just keep momentum.
Right. I think there were no splashy plays on offense besides a couple long runs from George Pettaway. Those interceptions kept this team in the game. They kept the crowd in the game, despite the fact that JMU fans were booing them at halftime. The crowd was actually pretty decent. I mean, it was a sellout crowd, and I think that kind of helped the defense play a little bit better. But I would still like to see the Dukes mix in some different personnel groupings on the defensive line. I think a lot of guys are, even though the stats look, decent, only giving up 106, 109 yards, I think, on offense. There were some times that, hey, this is an FCS offense they're playing against. They shouldn't be looking like they're getting bullied at times. And there were a couple guys on the defensive line that just really weren't holding their blocks up well. And there's a guy specifically that I have in mind, Terry Lockett, transferred from Syracuse, who's looked good in the minimal snaps that he has played. I would like to see the defensive line get him rotated in a little bit more.
Yeah, any other takeaways either of you guys have from the press conference?
I mean, I think the biggest takeaway right now is that you're going into a bye week. You don't have, and you haven't had, your expected wide receiver 1. Chesney did earlier in the week say that Tajee Hudson is close to coming back. There is no updated status on his injury, but I have to expect that going into a bye week and then going to UNC, we'll be seeing Tajee Hudson playing at UNC, and that offense really needs that wide receiver to step up and really be that guy in that room because Alonzo's been throwing the ball to a lot of people, and no one's had more than 4 receptions yet. So,
like what Preston said, I think getting a true number one wide receiver would be incredibly beneficial for this passing attack that has been, well, at least today, was very lackluster. And even though they had explosive plays last week, it was only 10 completions. Not anything from the press conference I want to take away specifically, but just to JMU fans, like, there are going to be a lot of fans that are going to just write them off solely because of the performance today, and maybe they feel like they should. I mean, it's a 13-6 win against a very obviously inferior opponent. I would just say, look at what they did versus Charlotte last week. That wasn't a fluke, right? I think this team can still compete for a Sun Belt championship. I think they have a lot of guys. It's just about gelling together. I wouldn't overreact about this, but I certainly wouldn't, say, it's just a run-of-the-mill, like, kind of, fluky game in itself. A lot of stuff to work on for the Dukes, but also don't give up on them, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, well, that's it from us here from Bridgeforth. Again, JMU 13, Gardner Webb 6.